Hey fight fans, welcome back to the channel. As the UFC gets ready to return to Montreal next month, we figured there's no better time to dive headfirst into some of the most unforgettable, wild, and absolutely iconic UFC moments that have gone down in the Great White North. We've already talked about the best fights. Now it's time for those legendary moments. Some are heart-pounding, others are hilarious, and a few might make you flinch hard. So sit back, smash that like button, and let's run down the top 10 most memorable UFC moments in Canada. Let's kick it off with a moment that literally changed the game. Back in 2008, Georges St-Pierre wasn't just fighting Matt Serra. He was fighting to redeem himself, fighting in front of a home crowd in Montreal, and fighting to become the face of Canadian MMA. He delivered. He battered Serra with brutal knees to the body and sealed a second-round TKO win, reclaiming the welterweight title. Not only did this win launch GSP into superstardom, it also marked the UFC's first-ever event in Canada. The Bell Centre was packed, the crowd was electric, and it felt like the start of something huge. And it was. Rich Franklin breaks his arm, and still KOs Chuck Liddell. UFC 115. Vancouver Chuck Liddell looked sharp, coming out strong in what was supposed to be a comeback fight. But Rich Franklin? Man was on a mission, even with a broken left arm. Yeah, legit snapped during the fight. Franklin managed to connect with a massive left hand that flattened Liddell right before the end of round 1 KO. Crowd goes wild. Chuck retires. One of those "did that just happen" moments. Sky Dome Spectacle, UFC 129, Toronto. If you were there, you'll never forget it. Over 55,000 fans packed into what's now called Rogers Centre. The energy was unreal. You had flying triangle chokes, spinning back fists, Canadians dominating the prelims, and oh yeah, Lyoto Machida crane-kicking Randy Couture's tooth into orbit. GSP headlined once again, this time outclassing Jake Shields, but the entire event felt like a rock concert meets fight night. Still one of the biggest UFC crowds ever, and a major turning point for the sport in Canada. Mir breaks Big Nog's arm, UFC 140, Toronto Frank Mir versus Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira was already a banger. Then it got nasty. After being rocked early, Mir flipped the script, locked in a Kimura, and cranked it until Big Nog's arm popped. Loud. It was one of the most brutal, yet technically impressive, submissions you'll ever see in the octagon. And yeah, it's still hard to watch. Ryan Jimmo's 7-second debut, KO, UFC 149, Calgary talk about making an entrance, Ryan. Jimmo had the home crowd behind him, and in just 7 seconds, he flatlined Anthony Parash with one punch. Then, as if that wasn't enough, Jimmo busted out his signature robot dance and dropped into the splits like it was nothing. One punch. One epic celebration, one unforgettable debut. R.I.P. Ryan Jimmo. We miss you, big guy. Jones versus Gustafsson, UFC 165, Toronto. If you thought John Jones was going to breeze through Alex Gustafsson, you weren't alone. But the Swede had other plans. These two went toe-to-toe in what is still considered one of the greatest light heavyweight fights of all time. Gustafsson pushed Jones to the edge, busted him up, took him down, and nearly shocked the world. Jones dug deep and pulled out the win, but it was razor thin. That war earned its spot in the UFC Hall of Fame for a reason. Elias Theodorou says, "Hi, Mom." Mid-fight, Tough Nations finale, Quebec City. Only in MMA can you be ground and pounding your opponent and still have time to look at the camera and say, "Hi, Mom." That's exactly what the late Elias Theodorou did before stopping Sheldon Westcott in the Tough Nations finale. It was hilarious, heartwarming, and classic Elias. He was a great fighter, but an even better human. Gone too soon, but never forgotten. Swanson versus Choi paints a masterpiece. UFC 206, Toronto. They didn't fight, they didn't brawl, they made art. Cub Swanson and the Korean Superboy went all out in a 3-round war that had everything. Haymakers, scrambles, spinning stuff, and pure chaos. The crowd at Air Canada Centre was on its feet the entire time, and the fight won multiple Fight of the Year awards. It was pure, beautiful violence. GSP's farewell title win, UFC 217, New York, honorable mention for Canadian legacy. Okay, this wasn't in Canada, but let's be real. GSP choking out Michael Bisping and grabbing the middleweight title was peak Canadian MMA legend stuff. After a 4-year layoff, he came back, submitted the champ, and rode off into the sunset, kind of. That moment belongs in the Canadian history books, even if it happened in NYC. Canada becomes a UFC powerhouse. Let's wrap it with a big-picture moment. Canada went from being just a market to becoming one of the UFC's most important international hotbeds. Between the rise of GSP, hosting mega events, and producing elite fighters like Rory MacDonald, Elias Theodorou, and TJ Grant, Canada made its mark. And it all started with these unforgettable moments. So there you have it, folks. 10 of the most legendary UFC moments to ever take place in Canada. Which one's your favorite? Did we miss a moment you think deserves to be on the list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any future Fight Night recaps, top 10s, and all things MMA. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next round.